Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
Critics are concerned the deal could pave the way for other countries in the Middle East to want to acquire nuclear arms.
Trump signs deal to help Saudi Arabia begin enriching uranium. The U.S. oil industry knew of methane's danger to the climate and lied about it to the public, documents show. Plus,
warmer temperatures are impacting our food and the safety of our food.
Climate change has a role in the national outbreak of explosive diarrhea.
All of that crap news and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
Trump went on to threaten Canada with more tariffs due to the wildfire smoke.
You got to stop these fires from coming in and, poisoning our air.
Are you sure you want America to set a precedent for paying for pollution? I feel like your pals at Pesticide, Microplastic, Death, Diarrhea, Lettuce, Inc. might have other ideas.
Yep, they would. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, it looks like Donald Trump has a new way to, let's say, complicate the Iran war. What do you got for us today?
Well, first, as you say, there is still no end in sight for Donald Trump's war on Iran. The Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed. So naturally, Trump on Wednesday signed a new nuclear agreement with Saudi Arabia.
This will totally work.
That will allow the kingdom to enrich uranium for civilian reactors, which is also the path to a nuclear weapon. Trump's Saudi deal also limits international inspections. Critics warn that the deal raises nuclear proliferation risks in the Middle East. So, yes, for those keeping track, basically Trump started a war with Iran, claiming it was to prevent them from enriching uranium, while he is permitting Saudi Arabia to enrich uranium.
Well, we don't have any reason to not trust Mohammed bin Salman. He's never proven to be a threat to anyone.
Well, anyway, here in the U.S., the nation is going through the largest cyclosporiasis outbreak ever recorded, with more than 4,000 confirmed cases of explosive diarrhea. And as we go to air, the FDA has not definitively traced the source. Public health experts warn that higher temperatures and repetitive, long-lasting heat waves caused by climate change are creating ideal conditions for Cyclospora to thrive. Studies increasingly tie the surge in outbreaks of illnesses linked to Cyclospora, E. coli, West Nile virus, Vibrio, and other pathogens to man-made climate change because it is expanding their range.
Not Vibrio.
Food safety attorney Bill Marler on CBS warns we are not prepared.
There's a lot of studies that are coming out now that are showing that certain pathogens like E. coli, Salmonella, Campylobacter are adapting better to a heated environment than we are. We've got to adapt. And right now, FDA and the industry is being caught flat-footed.
Not Campylobacter.
In other news, the oil and gas industry has known since at least the 1960s that methane is an extremely potent greenhouse gas. They knew it was dangerous to the climate, and they knew that their operations have been releasing far more methane gas than the companies have officially reported.
You don't say.
That's according to internal industry documents revealed by the nonprofit Center for Climate Integrity. And instead of repairing methane leaks to reduce their climate impacts, the oil and gas industry chose instead to spend millions of dollars to deceive the public and policymakers, including advertising and influencer campaigns selling the myth of natural gas as clean, in part to quell competition from cleaner, cheaper electric appliances. They also spent millions on relentless lobbying to overturn even mild rules aimed at reining in their methane pollution. Meanwhile, The Guardian reports that new polling shows that amid a summer of repetitive, record-shattering heat waves, punishing drought, and deadly floods, a majority of U.S. voters now increasingly link extreme weather to the climate crisis.
Good.
61% of likely American voters say extreme weather events are becoming more frequent, including 46% of Republicans. That despite efforts by Donald Trump, his administration, and elected Republicans to deny climate change as a con job and a hoax. Finally, some good news for Europe. In June, solar energy became the European Union's largest single source of electricity, generating more power than nuclear, natural gas, and wind energy.
Wow.
And for the first time ever, solar power in Europe now accounts for more than a quarter of all European electricity.
That's not just good news for Europe. That's good news for the entire globe. For much more on all of these stories and the ones we couldn't get to today, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Find, follow, and share us planet-wide on the social medias, especially Blue Sky, at Green News Report. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
Please help Progressive Voices support the Green News Report by stopping by bradblog.com/donate.
Man, what a quick week. Friday already. I will be back Monday. Scotty's going on a cruise. I need that guy. I'm going to be able to do Monday and Friday, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we will be off. This has, we've been going through these breaks hard and, here and there dotted over the last month. I told you July was going to be a little spotty. This should be the last major missing of shows for July. And then as we get into the end of the year, we're going to go hard through the end of the year with maybe just a couple missed shows here or there. But no prolonged vacation, 2 weeks, week here, 2 weeks there. No, we're not doing all that. We're going to try to go through as much as we can without taking any prolonged breaks. This 3-day will be as long as it gets, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I appreciate you guys, the support all through this week and leading up to now. You guys have been amazing. And we've had a lot to talk about. This has been a really quick week as we refocused on the Iran conflict and, Hegseth Kane going to the hearings. That was fun. We got a little bit of that. Yelling at Russ Vought. That was fun. And some other things. So we're going to catch you up on some stuff here. We are going to look back. We are going to look back over the last couple weeks of the Iran conflict and catch you up on a few details, things that have come out. There's been a couple things that we've brushed up against and let simmer. Brushed up against it. We'll circle back. It's time to circle back on a couple things right now. Time to circle back. But we're going to catch you up on quite a few things today. First thing we're going to deal with, though, is something that I have personally been brushing up against, but not going too hard against because we need more evidence. I need more details, more evidence, more clarity. But I have said repeatedly, I don't believe our military. I don't believe CENTCOM. I don't believe Pete Hegseth. I don't believe what they tell me, especially in concerns with U.S. deaths and casualties, injuries, severe or otherwise. I don't believe anything. I didn't believe the story they told us about the rescue of the jets that went down, the pilots, the 2 pilots in the jet that went down in Iranian territory. The too many details lead me to believe that they are lying about that encounter. Lying about it, lying about where they went down, where they ran to, who went to rescue them, how they escaped, the stuff that they had to blow up on the way out, considering where it was, right near a nuclear facility. The logistics of the whole story just didn't make sense. I also think they're lying about the USS Ford. I think they're lying about that kitchen fire on the USS Ford. I'm going to circle right back. We can't forget what we've been told here, because the time will come when we'll do investigating. Democratic-led committees will do investigating. We cannot forget about these things. I believe the Ford was hit. I believe more people were killed in that than they are telling us. I flat believe that. Now they've made their first mistake. in this arena. They've made their first real mistake in this arena that kicks open the door for our doubts. Kicks open the door for us reasonably questioning what they are telling us in terms of service members being killed or injured. The Pentagon's own website had a total of 18 American soldiers killed in this conflict on Wednesday. On Thursday, that number magically reduced to 4. Reduced by 4, rather, to 14, magically. One day, Pentagon's official website reduced 4. Now, if their explanation was consistent and made sense on its face, we'd stop right there. The problem is we already have 2 contradictory statements out of officials and the Defense Department, the Pentagon. People are saying different things. New York Times did some great reporting on this. They really did. They got a hold of some pretty good sources. Here's the problem. Right here. 3 military officials with knowledge of the Pentagon website and their tracking of American soldiers' casualties. 3 military officials said the reason behind the change was that the Trump administration decided to remove 4 service members killed this past weekend from the list, 3 in Jordan and 1 in northern Iraq, because their deaths occurred after President Trump declared a ceasefire in April. That's what 3 military officials said. They're saying Trump decided those deaths don't count because they happened after the ceasefire. 3 military officials said that. 3 did. Acting press secretary for the Pentagon, a guy named Joel Valdez, had this to say. He attributed the change instead to temporary data disruptions on the website, and he suggested they would be fixed very quickly. Bigly. We'll fix it quickly. Somebody's lying. Somebody's lying. And if we have to decide who's lying, we're choosing between 3 military officials that talked to the New York Times or our acting press secretary. Who's been doing more lying since I started this show? Who's been doing more lying since the beginning of the Iran conflict? Anonymous military sources and U.S. intelligence officials, or our press secretary, or our defense press secretary, or our secretary of defense, or our president? Who's been doing more lying in that time? Now, the Pentagon has provided very little information to Congress, and that's going to become a running theme. And that theme is getting more and more attention. It is getting more ire from not just Democrats and Republicans, but Republicans as well. The administration, Pentagon, stiff-arming rather, Congress on information, authorization, oversight, explanations, end dates, and now casualties. They have been slow to release information, to say the least. But our last major official Pentagon briefing, by the way, was in early May. That's the last time the Pentagon decided we deserved a briefing. We deserved any information at all. May. The Pentagon went on to say, we also don't have to disclose anything, and to do so, this is what the Pentagon's saying, to disclose information about American casualties following a strike by Iran would disclose housing information that would compromise our security. I got news for you, Pentagon. If they struck them, then they know where you are. If you're talking about, we don't want to talk about where Iran is striking us because we don't want to give up our position, to who? Iran? They know. They've been striking you. Just stupid. Just disingenuous and stupid. More to the point, they think we're stupid. And then they say, department officials say, by the way, we are not bound by law to be forthcoming with you. And I'm just curious, when you think about it, if they're willing to lie about the website count that changed magically, how comfortable do you think they are underreporting deaths in general, or simply lying about them in general? I would think they're very comfortable. I mean, this is so willy-nilly. This is so slapdash and casual. Thinking nobody would notice the official Pentagon website has dropped its casualty count. If they're that comfortable doing that, how comfortable are they just completely underreporting and lying about it in general? No news is good news from your accountant or your doctor or your kid's teacher. No news is not good news from your military when American service members are dying. Period. We're going to hear from a number of officials today, Army officials, foreign ambassadors, former ambassadors, some anonymous, some not. This gentleman was not anonymous. Lieutenant General Ben Hodges. He's a veteran of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. He commanded U.S. forces under Trump's first term, this gentleman did. And he said, the administration seems to have a real hard time being honest about what is going on, not just about the casualties, but about the whole damn thing. He said that downplaying the deaths during war indicate an unwillingness or inability to aggressively learn from your mistakes. So they won't learn from their mistakes. But Hegseth and Trump, they have absolutely no problem pointing out the mistakes of others. The deaths of U.S. service members that they want to lay at the feet of Joe Biden, right? They want to blame Joe Biden. They want to blame Lloyd Austin, former defense secretary. They want to blame even Kamala Harris, especially over the service members, 13 service members who died in the extraction in Afghanistan. Okay, so while they're not being forthcoming about the death toll in his war and fudging the numbers literally for the whole world to see, they have no problem blaming the 13 deaths in Afghanistan on those three people, Biden, Lloyd Austin, and Kamala Harris. Sean Parnell is preparing to release a brand new report at the direction of Pete Hegseth about just how culpable Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Lloyd Austin are in the deaths of those 13 service members. Brand new report is going to be coming out. Brand new report. Well, by the same logic, if you are trying to lay those deaths at Joe Biden's administration's feet, then we should have no problem laying the deaths of the soldiers in the base in Iraq or in Kuwait and Jordan at the feet of Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump. Pete Hegseth said to us, I ensure to the best of my ability that no service members will come to harm, and then sticks them in a base in Kuwait that is barely put together trailers with absolutely just minimal bomb shelter capacity, minimal defense structures that could stop a drone or a ballistic missile. They got rocked, 24 plus soldiers injured, some critically. In Jordan, same thing. I mean, not only are the bases in extremely vulnerable positions, but they are not equipped to stop the barrage that has been leveled on them from Iran. And now you've got 3 dead soldiers in Jordan in a Jordanian attack on our base. So if those deaths in Afghanistan are Joe Biden and Lloyd Austin and Kamala Harris's fault, then these deaths are your fault, Pete Hegseth. They're your fault. Even the soldiers who were talked to that survived that attack said flatly, we couldn't understand any of it. We felt in danger. We were at a loss. We couldn't understand why we were being positioned here. Don't forget, in that Kuwaiti base, every other base in the area had been moved out and evacuated. The one base that they left was the one that was closest to the Iranian shore, the one that was the most vulnerable to Iranian attack, and boy, did they get attacked. How's that protecting our service members, Pete? I'm very comfortable laying those deaths at your feet. I'm comfortable. Real comfortable. And, by the way, Trump went and he viewed the return of the bodies of 4 service members, the 3 that were killed in the Jordanian base attack, and the one that was killed in the bomb disposal. He went to see them be returned at Dover. Listen to what this guy said. You might have heard it. It made the rounds just a little bit. This is so disgusting. I can only hope the family of these service members did not hear this. It's all I can hope. Quote, out of Don, quote, all of them said very strongly that we can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon, so we're going to honor them. Just reading that quote leaves an uneasy feeling in my body. To have absolutely no compunction to hijacking the honor that is supposed to be bestowed upon these service members who gave the ultimate sacrifice in a ceremony meant to honor them. This guy has no problem propagandizing and hijacking the entire ceremony. They said very strongly, we can't let. Just absolutely disgraceful. I have no words. It's just so disgraceful.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things.
Citizens, rejoice. The state brings glorious news for the workers. The state seizes the means of production. Intel, U.S. Steel, taken for the glory of MAGA revolution. Our dear leader demands the state's rightful tribute. Companies may only buy or sell with his blessing. In his wisdom, the chairman alone picks winners and losers. He decides what the factory builds, where it stands, which worker keeps his job. No decision too small for our beloved chairman. And behold, the sons of the party. When these champions of the people grace a company's board, government contracts rain down. Drones, defense, mining, millions in shares. Such natural talent runs in the chairman's bloodline. And on every street, the loving embrace of state security. A free people has nothing to hide. Until you love constant surveillance, you don't love the state. Has there ever been a worker's paradise so great, so beautiful, so tremendous?
Sound ridiculous? Of course it is. When all they have left to scream about is imaginary communism, remember, it's not an accusation, it's a confession.
Who's your favorite mob lawyer? Tom Hagen in The Godfather? Saul Goodman in Breaking Bad? Maurice Levy in The Wire? Or how about Neil Mink in The Sopranos? Well, move over. There's a new contender in town. Meet Todd Blanche. He's Donald Trump's personal criminal defense lawyer. You remember Todd Blanche. He's the guy who lost 34 out of 34 counts when a hometown jury convicted Trump of 34 felonies. Todd Blanche is the guy who flew to Florida to meet with the notorious convicted pedophile of our time, Ghislaine Maxwell. Must have been a good meeting. Maxwell was moved from a real prison to a club fed with yoga classes. Even the inmates were offended, being stuck with a pedophile. Now Donald Trump wants his criminal defense lawyer to run the Justice Department. A president's criminal defense lawyer running the Justice Department? Wow, that's Hall of Fame mob lawyer stuff. Todd Blanche. Donald said he'd appoint only the best.
You're back with Brett Breaks Things, because democracy doesn't defend itself.
All right, we're gonna go as long as we go today, going into the weekend. And like I said, 3 days: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Scotty's on a cruise. I can't do a whole week without my boy. So he's taking the fam, and it is very much deserved. It's very much deserved for Scotty. He does ridiculously essential work around here. You have no idea how much I need him and how much I need you. Speaking of that, if you want to donate, that would be amazing. It is a little tight around here. We just had and thank God for some of your previous donations. I mean, just a ridiculous effort by you guys. As we turned the corner on a year, all of our subscriptions came up. Some maintenance on certain machines came up. Just a whole lot of egregious expenses came up at the same time, and you helped me through that. In the 3 days coming up next week, we won't be getting any revenue, obviously, from any ads or anything, so it'll be a little tighter coming out of that. Any help would be amazing. Again, I want to shout out my moderators, you guys, Diane and Kimchi. You guys are just amazing. You guys do an amazing job aggregating the comments and bringing people over here and creating excitement and supporting me. All of you. There is absolutely no show without every one of you. No show. But Scotty, essential. Let's put it that way. He's an essential worker. He's essential. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, out, back Friday. We will be here Monday. So Monday and Friday next week. Want to remind you of that. So here we are. Here we are with our Pentagon getting caught red-handed, fudging the numbers on our deaths, opening the door to scrutinize and question everything they're telling us about service members being killed and injured. Sean Parnell, spokesperson for the Pentagon, angry little man, Sean Parnell, he came out and he was just, beside himself. How dare the New York Times, how dare they, immediately responds to the New York Times piece that headlined, the news around this little discrepancy. Comes out and attacks the New York Times immediately. This is one of the worst instances of fake news media manufacturing lies out of thin air for absolutely no reason at all, but to cause distress amongst the American people. Okay, Sean, calm down, because you've got 3 military officials saying Trump decided to take those numbers off the board because they happened during his ceasefire. Then you've got your temporary spokesperson, Joel there saying, no, it was a website error that only affected that number count. Didn't affect anything else. We had a temporary disruption on the website that only affected the casualty count of American service members. Very specific glitch, that. Liar. It's your Pentagon, Sean, that is lying. Let's get that real straight as you are clutching your pearls. And your panties are all bunched up, and you just can't believe the fake news media coming out of the New York Times. I do want to remind you, or maybe make this information available to you if you do not know. You remember the Air Force One reporting out of the New York Times? Yeah. Not secure. The dude's over here visiting in the Middle East. He's visiting the Middle East right now in Air Force One that he got gifted by the Qataris, the one that was supposed to cost $1 billion to upgrade and retrofit to have the most advanced defensive measures, missile defense. And you've got contractors and people with intimate knowledge of those upgrades and how they would be handled and how much it would cost, saying, no, they didn't spend enough, they couldn't have. They didn't have enough time. They absolutely did not have enough time either to make all of those necessary upgrades. And that is why Don did not go back on that Air Force One, because the Secret Service and the CIA were super scared of something happening to Air Force One on the way out of that region. So he didn't take that Air Force One on the way out. That was the New York Times reporting. The administration called them liars. Then the administration sued the New York Times. Well, they just dropped the lawsuit. Shh. We were very bigly about fake news is getting sued, liars getting sued. We're very quiet. We're very softly, meekly, weakly reporting the lawsuit being dropped. That's not giant news. That's not giant news, right? What happened to that bigly, strongly lawsuit against The Guardian, Kash Patel? Oh, the Guardian reporting that told about how you're drunk all the time, how you had to be, the door of your hotel room had to be broken in because Secret Service members couldn't wake you up. They thought you were dead. That reporting? You said you were suing them for $50 million or some crazy sum. What happened to that? No, that doesn't make big news when the lawsuits are dropped or they go nowhere or they're blocked in court. No, not big news then. So, Sean, you want to call the New York Times liars? You've done this before. We've seen this show. You've played this game. They're lying? Then sue them. Sue them, Sean. Sue them if they're lying. And while we're talking about American service members dying, there's been a new warning out of the Iranian government. Now, a lot of service members in the Middle East right now are in the process of or have already moved from bases in the region to hotels and more residential areas to house them because we're getting bombed relentlessly. And now soldiers are dying, and this looks bad. So we have to move these soldiers out if we can. And they are. And in the face of this, in response to this, the Iranian government said this, that they are warning civilians in countries hosting U.S. military personnel to stay at least 500 meters from any building suspected of housing American forces. That's dirty pool. That's playing dirty. That's playing dirty. That's threatening the civilian population of Arab nation allies and neighbors in the region. That is threatening U.S. service members' lives directly. Talking about striking residential areas. That's an act of war. That's a war crime, rather. That is a war crime. Striking hotels and residential areas that are housing U.S. soldiers. That is a war crime. Of course, it's in the face of our own war crimes where Trump continually promises to strike Iranian infrastructure, bridges, roads, desalination plants, power plants. Don's doing it, so they're going to start doing it. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. So let's keep an eye on this U.S. service member death toll because Iran is basically telling you it's about to rise. It's about to rise. And in the face of this reporting by the New York Times and other suspicions held by Congress, Democrats on the Senate Armed Service Committee are now politely asking for the moment that Pete Hegseth provide, quote, a full and accurate accounting of all U.S. troops killed or wounded in the Iran war. Now they're asking for it. Time to be honest about it, Pete. Senator Mazie Hirono of Hawaii said this. They wrote a letter to Pete. Very nice and formal and polite. They wrote a nice, polite letter to Pete. Mazie Hirono said this. The information currently available to the public suggests that the department has not consistently provided timely and comprehensive public casualty reporting throughout the conflict. I'll paraphrase. You're lying, Pete. We think you're lying. The letter also went on to say the Pentagon system for tracking casualties has reported inconsistent casualty figures, raising additional questions about the transparency and reliability of the department's public reporting and statements. Fine. Something is moving on this front. Let's wait for November. Let's wait for November. But something is moving. Something is moving on this front. I'll take it for now. Just so we're all on the same page, regardless of what the Pentagon website says, there have been 18 service members killed. Now, Trump's official tracker doesn't have the 7 that were killed in when the refueling bomber went down over Iraq. He doesn't count that. Everybody else does. 18 service members killed, and now the injury report is up to 570. 570 injured. Now, remember, that's 570 that did not return to duty. That does not count the myriad of service members who were injured and have returned to work. I can't help but see a scenario where they're actively trying to keep that number down. So like there's a soldier in traction with cast from head to toe, like sitting there, and they just pop a pen in his hand and say, put your signature on that. You're going to okay this munitions supply to the hospital. Just do you look, you're working. You're working. Here, I'm gonna tie a rope to the light switch of the facility. And when it's 8 o'clock, I want you to pull that lever and turn the lights off in the hospital. You're working. I'm sorry. That's what I think of our government. That's what I think of our military. That's what I think of the transparency, the honesty. That's what I think of the dirty tactics that they would go about to save face. Sorry, can't help myself. And when I come back from this break, we're going to talk about another toothless, impotent effort out of the Republicans and the Democrats in Congress. Another war powers resolution has passed the House. Big deal.
We'll be back to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things.
Lincoln understood something that comfortable people didn't want to hear. A nation cannot be half one thing and half its opposite and survive. Not forever, not even for long. In his time, the question was slavery, the moral rod at the foundation, the thing everyone knew was wrong and almost no one would say. Ours is a different rod. But Lincoln's diagnosis is the same. You cannot be half democracy and half autocracy.
I can do anything I want.
Have free press.
Their license should be taken away.
And have state propaganda. Have rule of law and have rule of one man. The House is dividing again. Lincoln told us what that means. Are we listening?
A message from the Lincoln Project to the Democratic Party. Stop looking backward. We got whooped. Stop with the endless focus groups. Stop with the self-doubt. This isn't complicated. Only 1 out of 4 voters think we're heading in the right direction. Inflation is out of control. Gas is headed to $6 a gallon. Donald Trump is the most corrupt president in history. Republicans don't care. They're good with Trump taking your tax dollars to pay off cop beaters. The Justice Department operates like mob lawyers. The Epstein files? Not one prosecution. It's a joke. AI threatens every middle-class job and is turning billionaires into trillionaires. And Democrats are asking how to win? At the Lincoln Project, we don't have an identity crisis. We're here to beat the crap out of MAGA and save the country we love. You want to win? Attack, attack, attack. We do it better than anybody. If you're tired of playing games, join the fighters. Support the Lincoln Project. Let's get this done.
Because I've had enough.
Now back to Brett Breaks Things, smashing spin, silencing the noise, and keeping it all facts. No fluff.
I mean, why do I say big deal? Big deal. Another war powers resolution has passed. This time it passed the House, okay? 214 to 208. Why big deal? Well, even though the war powers resolution was written to not require a president's signature, it being the whole point, right? What's the point if the House and the Republicans both vote to force the president to withdraw without authorization of Congress? If he can just veto it, what's the point? But there's been rulings, a couple of rulings over the years. I think there was one in 83. Don't quote me on that. I think it was 83. Basically said, even though the war powers resolution was written the way it's written, it is unconstitutional for the House and the Senate to bypass the executive branch. If they want to do that, they need two-thirds to override a veto. Otherwise, forget about it. So it remains in limbo whether it needs a presidential signature or not. But that's also moot because this guy keeps playing games with the clock. Every time we get a ceasefire, he says the clock restarts. And there hasn't been any challenges to that yet, so he just keeps doing what he's doing. The Democrats have introduced 12 separate war power resolutions. The last one before this one got both House and Senate, and Don gave them the finger. He doesn't care. He gave him the finger. Here we are again. The House has passed war resolutions. A war resolution. 214 to 208. The Republicans who joined the Democrats were Tom Barrett of Michigan, Warren Davidson of Ohio, Brian Fitzpatrick, Thomas Massey. Barrett spoke about it. He spoke about it. He said, "My position hasn't changed. Only Congress has the authority to authorize military action in Iran. I'm ready to work with anybody to eliminate hostile threats to our nation without getting us into another endless war." Okay. All right. That's why you should be for a war powers resolution, Mr. Barrett. I appreciate you coming across the aisle with your cohorts there, Davidson and Fitzpatrick and Massey, of course. The resolution was presented by Pramila Jayapal, Democrat out of Washington. She sponsored it. And the reason they wanted to push this through, again, like they're pushing everything else through at the House, is because they're about to go on a 5-week recess. And I'm telling you right now, the Republicans are definitely aware that when they go out amongst the masses in this 5-week period, they will be hit with a resounding rebuke of this war from Republicans, from everybody. Independents, Democrats, people hate this war. Everybody hates this war. Republicans are afraid of this. They're afraid of what their constituents will tell them. What are they afraid of? Last week, a Washington Post Ipsos poll found that 29% of Americans support this war in Iran. That is lower than that 33% that we, as a whole, cannot shake. We can't. They're the dingleberry we can't shake. We can't shake them off. Can't get them off. That's the MAGA base. That's the xenophobic, racist base that doesn't want a dictator unless it's their dictator. Thinks it's hilarious that Don is an authoritarian. Thinks it's hilarious that American citizens are getting murdered in the name of his immigration policy as long as brown people have hoods thrown over their head and they're thrown into the back of a van, get beat up, dropped off in a Walmart parking lot. Maybe they'll get shipped around the country 5 times, then off to El Salvador. They think the whole thing's hilarious. That 33%. The 29% of Americans that support this war, that's below their 33% MAGA cult threshold. That's a problem for Republicans. That's a problem. A different poll, a political poll, found that those who identify as MAGA voters said, quote, there were conditions to their continued support. 37% said they would only consider backing the conflict so long as prices for Americans did not rise. That's really nice, MAGA. That's nice. No mention of the 18 service members dead. No mention of the 500 plus injuries. No mention of the 2,000 or so civilian casualties in the Gulf region right now. That doesn't move the needle for MAGA. Their prices. That is the only damn thing that moves the needle for MAGA. Themselves. Themselves. They didn't say, we only continue backing the conflict so long as no more Americans are killed. One more American killed? I'm out. I'm out. Like Lindsay, I'm out. I tried. I'm out. No mention of that. No mention of that. Don't forget, global energy prices, global oil prices, the oil prices themselves, they have risen back to $100 a barrel on Thursday for the first time since May, and it could go higher. Don't forget who cashes out on this. Russia. Russia, who has all their sanctions lifted. Everybody's got permission. Everybody's got the green light to buy Russian oil again. They are cashing out and making this conflict with Ukraine, this war with Ukraine, last who knows how much longer. looking like their supply of soldiers will run out before their cash does now. That is a grim and macabre thing to say. Now, one of the Democrats that supported the measure said that the waning public support would likely push more Republican lawmakers to speak out more forcefully against the Trump administration's unilateral approach to war. I agree with you. That was Jason Crow out of Colorado. I agree with you, Jason. And it is true. A growing number of Republicans are becoming more vocal about this war. They're becoming more vocal about no authorization and a failure to lay out any type of clear end game. And now they're fudging the numbers on casualties. They are being more vocal. But vocal dissent is one thing. Their votes, that's another. And so while I described to you some of the vocal dissent from the Republicans, don't forget the Republicans in the House just passed through. Once it's set that budget. So, when there's no stakes, when you have no skin in the game, when there's nothing on the line, war power resolution. Trump, come get authorization from us. Come give us details. But when it comes to something that would actually kibosh his foreign policy and these wars and prolonging them, you give them the green light on that massive budget increase. Okay, so saying one thing, that's fine. But you voted another way. You voted another way, Republicans. You voted another way. Now, everybody realizes how toothless this war power resolution really is right now. And that is why I'm happy to inform you that Gregory Meeks out of New York said this. He had begun the process to file a lawsuit against the administration for ignoring the resolutions. We have a situation where we've passed twice now war power resolutions. The president should not be able to get around this. Great. Whatever you got to do. Thank you, Gregory Meeks. Thank you for doing something else about this, and thank you for putting your name on it. I appreciate it. Let's see who gets behind it. Let's see if there's any bipartisan support for something like this. That's the House. What about in the Senate? Freaking cowards. Cowards. And you will note, my audience, that as I continually bring up things that Bill Cassidy has said since Don ran his opponent, since Don supported his opponent in Louisiana and got him fired, now that Bill's a lame duck, I've been saying some of the things that he's been saying because it's been against the administration. But while I do that, I call him a coward and a lame duck every single time, do I not? I call Cornyn a coward, Tillis a coward. Now that you people are leaving, you got all these things to say about Don's administration. It was mum's the word when your job was on the line prior. You're cowards. And that coward Cassidy, he came across the aisle again. He went across the last time the Senate voted on the war powers resolution, and now he's gone back across. This freaking coward voted against the resolution in the Senate. It failed in the Senate. So the Republicans, we want to rebuke Trump. The Republicans of the House are like, hey, we're going to do this again. And of course the Senate will get back on board and will send this powerful message to Don. We're going to pass this in both chambers twice. Not so fast. You got too many damn cowards in the Senate, like Bill Cassidy, who went back across the aisle, like Rand Paul and Lisa Murkowski, who decided not to vote this time. You friggin' cowards. This is why I talk about Murkowski the way I do. This is why. She loves to say the right things at the right time and then vote the other way. This time, she took an even more cowardly stance and decided not to vote at all. Cowards. Rand Paul, you're a coward. You're a coward. Now, I could understand, and I even said it on the show, for the people who did not vote for the War Powers Resolution the last time, it was at the beginning of the MOU. And I said I can understand the line of thinking that taking away his ability to wage war would weaken his position at the negotiation table. I can understand that line of thinking. It does have a certain amount of merit. That ship has frickin' sailed. Every ceasefire has been a joke. I was hoping, along with the rest of the damn world, that the MOU agreement would be more substantial than these previous ceasefires. Egg on our face again. How stupid do we look? Hoping for just a second that there might be an end in sight. No, it's as big a joke now as it was then. That ship has sailed. That line of thinking is now null and void. I don't know how we could get any weaker at the negotiation table, to be honest with you. This needs to end. One way or another. Senators don't feel that way. And of course, John Fetterman, secret agent, this son of a bitch, secret agent Fetterman, he went against the War Powers Resolution. Of course, the only Democrat to do so, this guy voted with the Republicans again. Man, talk about egg on your face. And again, I do not blame you, Pennsylvania. I was here for his campaign. I listened to the things he said. I listened to his personal story be told, sentiment being built up around the campaign. I was duped just like you were, Pennsylvanians. We all were. He's a secret agent. He's a son of a bitch. He voted with the Republicans again. But let's hear from Cassidy, you freaking coward. Let's hear from... I want an explanation out of you, Bill. I want an explanation. Why did you go back with the Republicans? Why did you go directly 180 from what you had said the last time we had this vote? What's your reasoning, Bill? He said he had switched positions after multiple briefings by the administration. Oh. He said he still had concerns about the conflict, but apparently he sat down with the administration. Now, it's not clear who he sat down with, whether it was Marco or Susie Wiles. Maybe it was Stephen Miller. Who knows? Maybe it was Don himself. What did they promise you, Bill? Moreover, what did they threaten you with? This is such a stark 180. This is the flip-flopping that people detest out of our politicians. And you're doing it on the biggest stage, Bill. I know you're lame duck. I know you're a coward, but come on. You're going to sit here and admit you had this ironclad stance against the way this president was waging war and his ability to do so without congressional authorization, and now a visit by administration officials, and you 180 on this? Now, do I approve of how the war is being carried out? Not necessarily. But he said he was not comfortable calling for an immediate withdrawal. And that's all you offer up to us? Why aren't you comfortable now, Bill? What the hell did they threaten you with? Coward.
Breaking politics, breaking narratives, breaking news. But first, we need a coffee break.
He knew their names. Not all of them. There were too many. But he tried. When Mrs. Bixby lost 5 sons in the war, Lincoln wrote to her himself, "I feel how weak and fruitless must be any word of mine, which should attempt to beguile you from the grief of a loss so overwhelming." He felt the weight of every death. It broke him, repeatedly. Because he believed that the men who served were owed everything, especially the truth about why they were asked to sacrifice. Donald Trump called them suckers, called them losers, stood at an American military cemetery and asked his staff, "What's in it for them?" Lincoln wept for the fallen. Trump couldn't understand why anyone would die for something larger than themselves. 250 years. The men and women in those graves deserved a Lincoln. They still do.
Remember the promises? No more wars. Release the Epstein files. Lower gas prices. Cut inflation. Drain the swamp. How's it going? Another foreign war costing us billions. Not one Epstein prosecution. Gas headed to record highs. Inflation skyrocketing. Drain the Swamp became corrupt insider trading. Billionaire surrounded by billionaires. They don't stand at the gas pump watching it gut their paycheck. They don't care how much groceries cost. They don't worry about making rent, making payroll, or making it to the next paycheck.
Breaking news, breaking rules, breaking through. Back to Brett Breaks Things.
All right. So, as far as the ceasefire goes, and we're going to talk about that for just a second, there's a new ceasefire deal that was presented to the Iranians. And this one came from us. Now, the details of our new ceasefire have not been released, but Iran is not happy. Now, we met with the Iraqi prime minister, and now we've drawn the Iraqis into this little mediating mess. We've got all these mediators, right? Qatar, Bahrain, Pakistan. Now Iraq is a main mediator, apparently. But the Pakistan thing is getting messy, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But yeah, so we met with the Iraqi prime minister, and the Iraqi prime minister then relayed our new peace agreement to Iran. Iran said no thanks. Iran said no thanks. We're going to hear first from an Iranian official, then we're going to hear from Mr. Araghchi, the foreign minister of Iran, after that. First, the Iranian official said a few things. I'm not going to bring you all of what they said about this, but what one interesting thing an Iranian official said was that it was the only offer on the table right now, and that their government was not interested in a temporary deal that left the question of control over the Strait of Hormuz unresolved. Translation, whatever our ceasefire agreement had in it, it did not clearly lay out that Iran is in control of the strait. It might have gone farther on the structure of what control of the strait would look like, and I'm guessing it had language about other countries being involved in the maritime control of the strait, including Bahrain or Oman. But whatever it was, I guarantee you it did not clearly lay out that Iran was in control. It did not lay out. It probably had no language about if we should break this ceasefire, Iran will go back to bombing ships and closing the strait. It probably had no language about any of that. Not their control now, not their control in an eventuality of hostilities resuming. No control. No control by the Iranians laid out in this peace agreement. That's what I'm telling you right now. So they have rejected it. They have rejected it. Now, here is Mr. Araghchi. And as I give you these statements out of their foreign minister, know that this is the guy with the most diplomatic experience in the Iranian power structure. This is the guy that was handpicked to deliver Mujtaba's message. This is the guy that was handpicked to deal with all the mediators and U.S. diplomats because of his experience and his demeanor. All right, let's hear from that guy. He said that the Iraqi prime minister had shared his views and impressions from his trip to Washington, but that Tehran and Washington already had enough mediators. We got enough of these people, is what Mr. Araghchi said. And then he went on to say this. The problem is not passing the messages or the messenger. The problem is America's outlook, which is illogical, greedy, and controlling. There it is. There it is. He continued, and at the back end of this next statement, we are going to get into it. He continued. He said, the country's armed forces were anticipating and preparing for the possibility of the war expanding. Don't forget, we just sent F-35s, F-16s, refueling bombers to the Middle East. And from what U.S. intelligence officials are telling us, we're also preparing for a possible ground invasion of Karg Island or the Iranian coast. Okay, so if you and I here at Brett Breaks Things knows this, obviously the Iranians know it. He said, the war will expand if Mr. Trump carries through with his threats to strike the capital of Tehran and critical infrastructure. If he does, Iran will expand the fight regionally, including striking Tel Aviv and asking Houthi allies to close the Bab al-Mandab, which we have talked about is that crucial strait at the Red Sea where the Saudi Arabians get their oil out. Oil exports from Saudi Arabia leave through the Bab al-Mandab. So there's their foreign minister saying, don't make us go get the Houthis. It's too late. The Houthis are now officially in this war. This war now has a brand new front, and it won't be the last. My promise to you, more countries, more regions are now being drawn into this because the Houthis are now drawn into this war. They are no longer standing on the sidelines. They're in it. They're in it. Not only have they implemented and said they're doing it, a blockade of the Bab el-Mandeb, but they already struck 2 vessels going through. 2 Saudi Arabian vessels were already hit trying to leave the strait. They're in. New front opened up. Period. This will draw in Saudi Arabia. This will draw in Pakistan. This will possibly draw in more Israeli interest in that region now. The Red Sea. They may have to get more involved again. The war has officially expanded. It officially has a brand new front. Like I said, the Houthis, they thought it was cute to sit by and watch Iran get bombed to the Stone Age by U.S. and Israeli forces since February. But things have now changed. Things have now changed. The fact that Iran is facing a possible brand new air campaign out of the U.S., and the fact that Iran is facing a possible ground invasion by the U.S., and the fact that the Saudi Arabians have bombed a Houthi-controlled airport in Sana'a, Yemen's capital, that's it. They're in. They're all in now. The Houthis are in. With those 3 developments, they're no longer on the sidelines. They no longer will watch Iran soak up U.S. and Israeli missile attacks. They're into the game. They're called in. Called in. Yep. Now, just like Iran, they do not need a bigly, strongly Navy to close that strait. Just like Iran. They can use commercial vessels, luxury vessels, mine-laying boats, small ones. They have mobile missile sites that they can set up on their coast and fire into the Bab el-Mandeb. Just like Iran, they don't need a Navy to pull this off. Iran has proven that. Proven that. So, this is going to affect oil prices. Something around 7 to 5% of the global oil market goes through the Bab el-Mandeb, somewhere around there. But if you add it to the 10% that goes through the Strait of Hormuz, we're looking at around 15% of the global oil market being strangled as Brent crude goes to $100 a barrel. Now, Saudi Arabia has to look to go north through the Suez Canal. If you go look, bring up, if you're sitting at your computer, or maybe you got your phone with you, bring up the map, and you'll see that now Saudi Arabia has to send their oil through the Suez Canal. That's up north and west. Now, that's the route they get their oil to the EU. But to get their oil to Asia that way, check out the route. They'll have to go through the Suez Canal, pop out, then go all the way down around Africa and up to the other side to get their oil exports to Asia, their number 1 buyer. $100 a barrel is just the damn beginning. It's going to go higher and higher. Brent crude, the international benchmark, that's at $100 a barrel. The U.S. benchmark, Western Intermediate, that is at $93 a barrel. It will soon be $100. And the only people benefiting from all of that U.S. oil now being priced at $93 a barrel are the U.S. oil companies, not you. And we have already tried to float the idea of these U.S. oil companies sharing some of this profit with the U.S. people, maybe holding on to some of those oil reserves to bring down the price at the pump. They stiff-armed it all. And Don has no interest in any of that. The only people that are going to be profiting from the price of U.S. oil right now are the U.S. oil companies. Hard stop. What can the U.S. do about this new Houthi presence in the war? Well, we've got one ship in the Red Sea right now. One ship. It's the USS Gonzales. But that is misleading. I don't want you to think, oh, that's a small presence in the Red Sea to deal with this. We're America, baby. We got the big missiles that go a long way. The entire presence of the U.S. Navy in the Arabian Sea can be used to strike Houthi forces at the Red Sea, at the Bab al-Mandeb. We got that kind of firepower. Our whole Navy right now, its entire Middle Eastern presence can be focused on the Houthis should we want that, which we said we're not right now willing to strike the Houthis. Let's see how Saudi Arabia handles this. Let's see how they handle it. We're not going to strike at the Houthis right now, and we're not going to attempt to escort any ships out of the Red Sea right now. We're not doing either. We've said we're not. Okay. Let's see how long we maintain that posture as Brent crude goes over $100 a barrel. Up to 103, 105, 107. Let's see. Let's see if we continue that posture. Should we decide to go ahead and start striking the Houthi rebels, we kind of know what this is going to look like. You see, we're coming off the heels of this already. And the Houthis, just like the Iranians, they are uniquely qualified, it seems, to absorb U.S. airstrikes and military action from our Gulf allies. They seem to be able to soak it up like a sponge and keep on trucking. The Iranians just spent 4 months proving to you how resilient they can be, and the Houthis are just as resilient. Just as resilient. We just concluded a few months ago a year-long campaign of U.S. airstrikes against Houthi rebels and encampments, military sites. A year-long campaign. 600 dead Houthi rebels and multiple military installations in that campaign. 600 dead, multiple installations destroyed, infrastructure the Houthis relied on destroyed. They just kept on trucking. They keep on ticking. They're like cockroaches. And I have no problem speaking that way about the Houthi rebels. They are a scourge. They are a scourge. And should we engage in hostilities with them, I have absolutely no problem with it. Our overall foreign policy here in the Middle East is detestable. And Don lies to us about why we're in a war. U.S. service members are being killed, and I want the whole thing to stop. But should the Houthis take some hits as this whole thing progresses forward because of their loyalty to Iran, so damn be it. They are a friggin' scourge. So, I'm not going to cry for the 600 dead Houthis in an American U.S. air campaign. But it goes farther than that when you talk about their resiliency. You see, the Saudi Arabians, they were on a 4-year military campaign to extricate, to eliminate the Houthi scourge in Yemen. After the Houthis took the capital, Sana'a, and most of the coastal region, Saudi Arabia spent 4 years trying to eliminate them, get them out of Yemen, unsuccessfully. Let me tell you something. In that campaign, there were 220,000 casualties in those 4 years. 200,000 casualties were Houthi rebels, supporters, and sympathizers. And they keep on ticking. They keep on trucking. They keep on pirating vessels. They keep on striking other countries. They keep on committing terrorist activities, taking innocent lives. They still have control of Sana'a, which is why they took it personal that the Saudi Arabian government bombed the international airport there. I'm just trying to, impress upon you the impact this will have and how difficult it will be to counter aggression out of the Houthis. The Saudi Arabians and the Americans have been doing it for 5 years, and there they are. And I don't want you to think that these are farmers with pitchforks. Don't get it twisted. The Houthis, they have military equipment, hardware, and capabilities. They have attack drones. They have ballistic missiles. They have cruise missiles. They have unmanned boats, unmanned drone technology that is advanced. Their missiles and drones can strike 1,000 miles away. They can strike inside Israel at a moment's notice. The Houthis can. They are not just some farmers with a pitchfork. They are not. They are not. And I mentioned the Pakistani situation with those mediators is getting a little complicated. It's getting complicated because of the Houthis. Pakistan has a little experience battling rebels in their hills and mountains. They've been doing that for a while. They're good at it. They've been doing it for a while. They also have a mutual defense pact with Saudi Arabia. Therefore, they are obligated to assist Saudi Arabia in this effort against the Houthis. And assist they are. They have sent jet fighters and they have sent troops to Saudi Arabia. Now they are more engaged in this war than they have been previously. Previously, they were suitable mediators. They were reasonably detached from the theater of war. Now they are embroiled in it, which is the need for Iraqi mediators and Qatari mediators and mediators from other countries to get involved, because now the Pakistanis are a little bit in it. They're in it. They're sending their own troops, their own jet fighters to counter this Houthi threat, to assist the Saudi Arabians with this Houthi threat. I'm not sure that they will make suitable mediators anymore. I don't think we'll have any more talks in Islamabad anymore. Their role in mediating these agreements will be downsized. Downsized, because we've got a brand new front and we're sucking in other countries. We're sucking in other countries, and other countries are getting themselves involved. We talked about possible Russian assistance of Iran. Well, we have new U.S. intelligence that is going to they described it to Reuters. They described a brand new CIA analysis that was previously withheld from the public, previously withheld from major news outlets. 2 attacks on CIA facilities, specifically. And the CIA and the intelligence community is starting to say, Russia provided the hardware, Russia provided the intelligence, and Russia has all the motivation they need to weaken U.S. intelligence presence and CIA efficacy in what they consider their zone of influence. That's right. The Russians do consider this area their zone of influence, and a CIA presence there undermines it. And so, according to this brand new CIA analysis, it appears the Russians had a heavy hand in striking 2 CIA facilities in the region. One was a CIA station in Saudi Arabia. The other was a separate site in Iraq. Now, I'm not going to go deep diving into this in this report, but the smoking gun is, according to the analysis, striking these facilities could not have been done without specialized Russian versions of the Shahed drones, the Shahed 136s. A Russian-made drone, the CIA is telling us, is the only drone technology on that side that could possibly target and precisely strike these CIA sites, and Russia's the only one who knew where they were. These Shahed 136s that were used to strike these 2 facilities, They have an advanced navigational system installed in them called the Kometa M. The Kometa M is a Russian navigation system that is far, far superior to anything the Iranians have. Far superior. The Kremlin said, this is fake news. We didn't give the Kometa M technology to the Iranians. Our CIA and our intelligence officials are saying that's bull bleep. The Kometa M navigational system is the only system that could have struck the way these drones struck. Thank God there's no casualties. Thank God, no casualties. No injuries were even reported. Of course, can we believe that? But not only was it Russian technology that struck those sites, apparently, according to an analysis by our CIA, but Russia was the only ones who knew where those sites were. And Russia has all the motivation in the world to undermine, weaken the American CIA presence in what they consider to be their zone of influence. Russia is injecting themselves in this war, and now they're doing it in a way that's leaving evidence. And I don't think it's going to stop there. We brushed up against this story once. Now we've brushed up against it twice. Let's see where that goes. Of course, Don must have come out and said something, right? In the face of Reuters reporting like this and our CIA analysis, Don must have said something about the Russian presence in this conflict, right? Right? Of course he did, right? No, not a word. Mum's the word on Russia right now. Not Russian hacking and not Russia flat out assisting the Iranians in striking U.S. CIA sites. Not a word out of Don about it. He is flat out Putin's bitch. I'll see you kids Monday.
They'll try to repair the narrative, but Brett Breaks Things will be back Monday to break it all down.